taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night to some of you, depending where you are in the world. This is the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. It's July 7th, 2019, and this is the Saturday morning edition of the show, at least. That's the time of day it is where we are. I know I'm seeing in the live chat already lots of people talking from all over the world. For Terror K, it's 1 in the morning. I know for our guest, Lilayah, it's the middle of the afternoon, I believe, in Poland. I'm sorry, I had you muted there. Go ahead. Go ahead again. Usually I have Cyb and anybody else muted while I'm doing the intro, but anyway, didn't mean to cut you off there. So it's 3 p.m. in Poland.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's exciting to me that we have listeners from all over the world, and so welcome to all of you. Welcome to everybody who's live in the chat. I left my browser window open overnight so I could catch all the chat messages that all of you mad lads and mad ladies send throughout the night. And it's always exciting reading all those in the morning. You're all crazy, and we love you. Thank you for supporting this show. If you're listening live, of course, please say hello in the live chat and send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. If you are listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we're glad you're here as well, and we appreciate your likes and follows on those platforms as well. It does take us a day or two to get the podcast up to the audio platforms. So if you want the latest info sooner, we encourage you to hit the link in the description and subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel. Okay, blah, 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 all that's out of the way. Welcome to our very special guest, Lilayah. Thank you for joining us again. I mean, you haven't been on this show before. You joined us on the Cyberpunk 2077 Community Podcast, which we do with the Mad Queen show, Last Known Meal, and the Neon Arcade. But welcome to our show.
It's a pleasure to be here again. Well, again.
Yeah, well, it's our second time talking to you, so we can say again. And of course, we've got Cybsidian here as well, as per usual.
Good morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a pretty busy week. Not overly insane, but it's been an interesting week here. So
yeah, well, we had a lot to talk about earlier in the week about the Kaczynski's interview that got reported on, or some of his statements that got reported on that Polish financial website. We're not going to go into that here. We discussed with Lilayah a little bit before the show. There's not much that she can really say about all of that, so we'll respect that, and we'll just not go into that. But there is lots we can talk about with gaming, and you're technically supposed to be on vacation, aren't you?
It just started today, a few hours ago. But during my holidays, I mainly play games anyway. So talking about it's my pleasure.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here.
It's totally fine.
So, what have you been up to? What games have you been playing today?
Today just one so far. Because last week, 2 weeks last week, we had a major patch in World of Warcraft. So obviously I'm trying to catch up with everything. So yeah, pretty much 7 hours on the clock, World of Warcraft today.
Oh wow. I think that is the total amount of time I ever spent playing World of Warcraft.
yeah, I tried to get him into it early on, and he was like, "No, not for me."
Yeah, it's not really my thing, but I'm fascinated by the concept. As a matter of fact, when I was doing my psychology degree, or actually shortly after I graduated, and I was thinking about going on and doing a master's, I thought about doing some kind of a research study on online gaming. That's when World of Warcraft was really in its... it was coming into its own. It had just sort of recently exploded, and World of Warcraft was the big one. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So you're a big World of Warcraft player, and that really fits into what we're going to be talking with you about quite a bit today, about community-based gaming, the importance of community in gaming, and it's right there in your job title. You are the community manager for CD Projekt,
Correct. One of many.
One of many. Okay. Well, I think I think you're one of the more famous ones, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you're the only one I could pick out by name. So,
I wouldn't say famous. Maybe one of most active ones, but we have Alicia. She's taking care of Gwent Discord, and she's pretty active on social media as well. Obviously, Boja. We call him Face of Gwent.
okay.
And then obviously every single local community manager. So Fabian, Caroline for Germany, they're amazing people. Alessandro for Italy. We have Kevin for France. He was actually one of cosplayers that won a Witcher 3 cosplay contest. And after that, he actually joined our studio. And then he's quite famous in cosplay world and in France. So yeah, we have a lot of people that they're known in their own regions, and some of us are just pretty much just global ones.
Okay, so perhaps you're more famous in the Cyberpunk community because that's the game you specifically deal with. Is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay, so you specifically focus on Cyberpunk 2077, and then you have other community managers focused on other games in other regions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Oh, there is a quick question here, which I think you may be able to comment on. What's the word on Gwent for mobile?
It's coming.
It's coming, yeah.
It's coming. It's actually happening. I know Buja would be able to talk about that more. But from the meetings we have, like internal ones, everything is going smoothly. So it will definitely happen.
That's fantastic.
Just Dotsy asked that in the chat, so I saw that. I'm like, oh yeah. I know that it's been basically confirmed, right? It has been confirmed.
Yes.
For a little while now, so it's just a matter of like getting it out, which is there is some extra difficulty in it when you're doing a bigger game like this. Sure, it's pretty easy to like launch a small mobile game. It's not something that takes a terrible amount of time, but it restricts the amount of devices and whatever that you can have it on. So in this particular case, it's like they want to make sure that they have it running, obviously smoothly on as many of the different devices as possible, and that does take some time. So, but yeah, no, all right, good.
Excellent, fantastic. So, why don't you explain to us a little bit about what exactly your job as community manager is? We talked about it on the community podcast, but we might have some more listeners that didn't join us for that show. By the way, I'm watching the viewer numbers fluctuate wildly right now. I hope we're not having any technical problems. So anyway, I hope that everything is going okay with YouTube right now. But anyway, we'll carry on with the show. So Lilayah, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your job is with CD Projekt, and then we'll talk about the importance of community in the gaming world.
So yes, pretty much as a community manager, what we do is to talk with community, right? We manage social channels, so name it Facebook, Twitter, Discord, our forums. We obviously pop up on Reddit and some less official channels, to make sure that we hear everyone who is talking about the game. We pretty much make sure that your word, what you're saying, what you talk about is heard in here. So we get like emails, we get messages that we forward to the devs. If there's a cool idea that we think it might be worth putting somewhere to add to the game, or to even just consider. This is one of our jobs. We obviously talk with our tech support, making sure they know what's going to happen, for example, in like week or 2 weeks time. We work closely with marketing, so they give us details about like some of the campaigns. We are also really involved into marketing campaign, making sure everything is working, and it's actually fun for you to follow. So it's not just for media press, but also for the community, right? Um, and yeah, we come up with a lot of crazy stuff like contests, small activities, either on social media or events that we attend, to make sure that everyone is excited, and everyone is participating in big event, whether it's offline or online.
Okay, excellent. So you come up with sort of the ARGs and the different the different contests and things and just ways to engage with the community.
Yes,
That's part of your job.
yes.
Is this something that you do from home, or do you travel into the CD Projekt offices, or is it a mix of both?
It's actually a mix of both, because we obviously have 3 studios in Poland, headquarters in Warsaw, and then Kraków and Wrocław. But we also have people working remotely. So, for example, our Fabian and Caroline, our German community and PR managers, they're working in a studio in Berlin. But like some folks, they're like one-man army. I like to call them that way, and they work remotely, but they also travel to our headquarters. For example, for E3, for Gamescom, for Christmas parties, for any other timing in the year, just to pretty much get together now and again, and work in the same office.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Wow, we have a ton of questions coming in for you. Would you like to tackle some of them right off the bat here?
Yes.
All right, that would be fantastic. We got a couple of super chat questions. I'll grab those first, and then I've got a list of a bunch of other ones I've been copying and pasting while you were talking. So, HTK Gaming, thank you so much for the generous super chat. So Miles Toast talked about gun mechanics in a recent video, and yes, this is something we were going to touch on anyway, but there was a Twitter video posted of Miles Toast.
I believe it's pronounced tossed.
I thought he said,
Yes.
Is it tossed? I could have sworn he said toast in the video, and I thought I was going to be I was really going to try to get his name accurate there, but okay, I guess I'm wrong about that. But anyway, so Miles Tossed, he's a level designer, so
Yes.
he designs physical environments in the game. Is that how that works, or is he involved also in quests?
He's not involved into questing part, but yeah, he's pretty much doing all kind of like even riddles, I would say. But yeah, designing the world in general. So like buildings, making sure like about the floors and so on. But I'm not the right person to talk about his job. Miles could probably tell you a bit more what he's doing exactly. Because all the time when I'm swinging by his desk, he's like making sure like this building is here, and then he like clicks some stuff on the screen. So this is all I know.
I would love to have Miles on the show. Well, we'd love to have anyone from the studio on the show.
I'm sure it's doable.
I mean, if any, I don't know if there's any community managers per se who could put in a good word for us, but yeah, we'd love to have anyone from the studio on the show. To talk
I'm sure it's doable.
To talk about any of that stuff. But anyway, so he talked about the gun mechanics in this video that was posted on Twitter, basically talking about character progression and how you use your weapons. Your character becomes more proficient at using those weapons, which sounds really, really awesome. That's a mechanic that I really like in games, where you actually level up a skill by actually doing that skill. I think that provides a good aspect of realism and gives you, I mean, it lets you level up the skills that you're actually using without even thinking about it. So that, I think, is fantastic. So HDK's question, and my question as well, was does that apply more generally? Does that apply to other types of skills like stealth, hacking, that kind of a thing? Or is that exclusively about weapons?
It's pretty much it's the simplest way to describe the progression system that we have in Cyberpunk. And we like to say that you gain experience by doing things, but with a small twist. So Miles was talking about weapons. So let me actually talk a bit more about that. So let's take the shooting, right? So when you use handguns, you will level up your handgun skill. But that also applies to other weapons, so like melee weapon, katanas, mantis blades, and so on. And the twist is that you can level it only as high as your attribute allows it. So, for example, if you have like 5 reflex points, you can only have your handgun skill at 5, not higher, because it's like, it's blocked. But the higher the skill is, the more efficient you will be with your weapon. And the higher attribute, the higher the skill cap. And I think it's like the simplest way to understand and have fun with that. But it's also very flexible. And obviously, we have traditional experience system that gives you access to raising attributes. Players can also gain street cred by completing side missions and job in the cities. So you go to your fixer and you get street stories from them, and then you unlock the street cred. And the higher your street cred is, you unlock perks. Perks can give you buffs like faster reloading or like more damage. And obviously the higher your street cred is, the more vendors and contact you get in Night City.
That's awesome. I really like the progression system and how it's leveling up, so to speak, if you pardon the pun.
How the progression system is leveling up.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it's I think the way that the skill system kind of basis the form works is that's good, because it lets you invest time to get something out of it, and that's really good. Did you ever? You probably didn't ever play WoW when they had the same system set up for weapons and stuff. Did you go through that experience?
Oh, I played during that time. I still remember, trying to punch stuff with no weapon and get the achievement for that. Yeah. But it was really, really good time. And when I heard about that we will have, I would say, something similar in Cyberpunk, I was super excited because it actually woke up the nostalgia I had with World of Warcraft, maxing the skill. I think that was like 400. That was max that you can go.
Wow, fantastic! Yeah, it does sound great. It sounds like the progression system in this game is going to be fantastic. This honestly sounds like a game that I'm probably going to play through 5 times, which is rare for me. Andre Velasquez, also with the generous super chat. Thank you so much. He says, marketing for this game has been an art form. I agree.
Thank you.
I agree. Terror K, thank you as well. Question for Lilayah. Do you know of any plans for a custom radio station or like an MP3 import feature?
This is something I cannot talk about yet, but we have, as a community, we have something planned in the future.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And Larry Booze wants to know, can we romance Meredith Stout?
That question pops up really often, and my answer always is that you should play the game first and see if you really want to romance her.
That was my question too.
Well, I guess some people just like a challenge. Another quick question, which I don't know if you you pop this one in there, but real one. ZX is asking whether or not we will have casinos in the game, specifically casinos that we can go up to a slot machine and roll the proverbial dice. That's probably something you can't mention at the moment, I would assume.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen such casino, but the game is still in development, so we are feeling the world always I wouldn't say at the end of the development, but somewhere closer to the end. And sometimes we come up with crazy ideas, for example, like casino, and everyone will be like, yeah, let's add casino over here. So you never know what will actually end up in the game when it's launched.
Well, I am shocked at how very popular casino mechanics are within, like, an actual casino where you go into the game and there's you get some form of blackjack or some form of random slots, and you can just waste time and or money in it, and people really like that system. And we used to have, which was definitely against TOS, so don't confirm that you've ever done this, but there was at one point a little like add-on mod for WoW that you could like get together and you could play basically like blackjack, and like you could bet like real gold on it, and you could gamble away gold like all day. And I remember you could even like there was even an add-on that let you bank money on Peggle, because they put Peggle in as an official mod at some point, and somebody had made a little add-on that you could bet money on who could do better with less little ball pings. So it's like that was at the height of WoW, when things were just getting a little crazy for some of the add-ons that were coming out for that.
Speaking of gaming community, yeah, absolutely. By the way, as for that question about custom MP3s and custom radio stations, even if that's something they don't implement officially, I am sure that someone will make a mod for that.
Yeah.
Shiva asks, and I'll just answer this one quickly because we've discussed it at length previously, but will there be nudity, romance, and sex? Yes, yes, and yes. But what was really funny was the very next chat message was Nerdy Rodent saying, "I want to jack into everything." I don't think that was related, but it's really funny. Okay. Whole bunch of other questions I'll just throw at you rapid fire. Will there be any... Sorry. Kenneth asks, will we be able to interact with any of the brain dance games, like in some kind of a mini game or visual way?
So Braindance will be a huge part of the game. You will experience Braindance. But with Braindance, we actually have a lot of cool stuff prepared already. And I don't really want to spoil it for you, but it will be really, really cool experience.
Awesome. Okay, Tanad is asking, does the life path in Cyberpunk 2077 change how fast you can access cyberware?
From what I know, no. It's pretty much gives you additional dialogue options, for example, or the fact that, for example, if you pick nomad path, nomads will react to you a bit differently than if you would pick a corpo path. But it's pretty much just giving you a bit of background of your character, not exactly cyberware priorities, I'd say.
Okay, but if you make certain decisions in the game, like, are certain cyberware implants only available if you do certain quests or certain story paths, that kind of thing?
From I know, no.
Okay. So it's mostly something you go to a store and you buy it, kind of a thing?
To your Ripper Doc, yeah.
To your Ripper Doc, right. Okay, excellent. All right, Alpha Tango 97, is the body customization based on body types or sliders?
We are actually working on character creators right now. We are revisiting several ideas that we had for this feature. So I cannot really tell you exactly what it is, but we can come back to that question, I think, in a few weeks when we actually have a clearer vision, because those things changed. I think character creator changed already like 3 times. And while right now everyone is obviously back from holidays, from E3, from really focused on the game right now, and we decided to change it a bit again.
Okay, that makes sense. That's something that seems like a highly iterative thing. And for example, the childhood heroes is no longer a part of the character creation. Is that correct?
Correct.
We saw that in the in the gameplay that came out 10 months ago now. But the childhood heroes is no longer a part of that. But life path, I believe, still is.
Yes.
Eshcroft is wondering, how diverse are the boss fights going to be? Like, how much variety?
I don't really want to talk about that because that would spoil you the game. But something I can say is that you really won't have to fight with the boss if you will take a stealth approach.
Oh, okay. So they're optional in a sense.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Well,
Mark Jackson
that does play into the concept of whether or not you can play through the whole game without being forced to kill anybody. So
that's absolutely right. Yeah.
That was something that was like basically somewhat confirmed in the past by confirming that oh yeah, you don't need to kill anybody. Then by association, that means that some at the very least some, if not most, boss fights are avoidable. So
right on. Okay, so Mark Jackson's wondering, does the starting attributes affect the appearance of the player character? For example, strength or constitution, that kind of a thing. Do they affect your appearance at all?
It's again like we are like completely, because like the first skills and attributes that you pick are connected to the character creator, where you actually apply them and so on. This is like fully something we are redoing again. So yes, let's really not talk about that just yet, because this might change. For example, I will tell you yes, and for example in 2 weeks it will be changed. So
right. Okay, fair enough. So everything to do with character creation is in flux. We'll just go with that at this point.
I see a question here that seems like one of these really, really important ones, and I want to get this one out of the way because this is really integral to, I think, the finite experience of the game. Can we, or is there going to be pizza delivery missions where you have to go and deliver a pizza somewhere? Again, one of these ones where it's just like, really sets the tone for the rest of the. I did you ever play the Avoid the Noid game?
no.
Okay, it's legendary. It's an old one. It was I think it was DOS based, and it was basically a pizza delivery game. And for anybody who thinks pizza delivery game easy, that game I think has one of the lowest numbers of like successful playthroughs in history. I would hazard to guess at any other game that was not bugged or was unable to be completed. It's a game that was just like people tried it and they would try it and try it and try it and try it and never be able to finish it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I played the game that you had to make pizzas and you had the timer that you had like the orders and so on. I don't remember the name, but it was like super old game. I used to play it in high school, and then later, obviously like years later, and I like at some point you had like 15 orders and then like 1 minute to do it. I was like, no. No, that wasn't Pizza Tycoon.
Yeah.
Time Being in the chat is apparently really good at Avoid the Noid. I've never played it, but someone did a speed run of it at AGDQ back in January. I watched the VOD of that. It is a brutal game. There are like invisible holes in the floor.
Yeah.
You have to jump
Yep.
over the holes that you can't see. It's and if you don't, you fall to the lower levels of the building, and you have to climb back up because you got to get this pizza to the top floor or something ridiculous. I was like, who thought this was a good idea for a game? I don't know. Somebody did apparently. All right, a couple other questions here. Alad's Ginger asking, how do you guys come up with ARGs?
That's something me and my team is we are doing that. So there was a moment that I had the dream to make something cool for those that cannot go to event and still want to participate. And because in Cyberpunk we have net running, and I was always fan of all hacking games and movies, generally everything that has to do something with that. And obviously I know Cicada. I actually watched it really closely, so I thought that would be cool activity for our community, that we will challenge them just tiny bit. And I talked with our lead, and he was like, yeah, let's do something like that, but maybe later in time. And then we noticed that there is a lot of people interested in doing such a thing. So we just sat down with the entire team and tried to come up with some riddles, and then ARG happened, and it's going. I know everyone. I think everyone or most of you guys know that we launched another one, but that's all I can say. It's pretty much like sometimes we just gather in a room and then try to think what would be cool to have, how we can interact with community, how we can challenge you in a way that everyone can participate, that you don't have to know rocket science or no extreme googling skill or whatever, but that everyone at any point can just jump in to the game and have some fun. Or even if you don't feel like solving the clues, for example, I don't know, I'm not a math person, so everything that includes calculating or doing any sort of math is just not for me. But I enjoy watching you guys trying to solve those puzzles. And this is what we do as well. Like sometimes we just toss one to ourselves and then watch everyone else trying to solve it. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's super hilarious. But it's all about fun.
Right on. For those wondering what an ARG is, it stands for Augmented Reality Game. The tongue's not working completely correctly this early in the morning. Augmented Reality Game, which has nothing to do with our Augmented Reality podcast. It just means it's kind of a meta game where they bring it into real life. So they put out a secret code somewhere, and you have to go somewhere else and decipher it, and you get the community involved. It's all about that community involvement, which we will get to very, very soon. We have another super chat here. Ubuntu 37, thank you so much. Very, very generous of you. I imagine this is not one that Lilayah will be able to give an answer to because it'll involve spoilers. But it's asking how Jackie and V met, or will we find out playing the game?
You will find out while playing the game. It's really cool story how their friendship is there. So this is something you really have to just see yourself.
Right on. And on that note, Kristana D20 is asking, how often will we be able to see our character? Will there be lots of cutscenes that go into the third person?
Yeah, so pretty much you will be able to see your character inventory. I don't really want to talk about cutscenes.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, every time when you open your inventory, you will see your character. But that might be just that.
Okay. All right, so we're being secretive. And then Tanad is asking, info about melee combat is very scarce. Can we get some info about the melee weapons in combat? For example, can we parry bullets with a sword?
This is something that is still in the development. All I know, there are like various melee weapons, so you will not have only like fist fighting, but you will obviously be able to fist fight. But yeah, there will be like two-hand melee weapon, one-hand melee weapon, obviously mantis blades, and really cool katanas.
Awesome. Sounds great. One final question I'm going to take here before we get on to our next topic. This one is coming through our Discord. GhostMD is wondering, how do we get humanity back in the game? Is it just get returned when you remove cyberware?
Pretty much yes. We are like pretty much you will not be able to lose all your humanity because there will be cyberware cup that you can have maximum amount of cyberware installed in you. How exactly will it work? We are still making all the equations and see what works the best. But yeah, generally when you uninstall the cyberware, you remove it or like switch to something different, you may have get back those humanity points. But again, this is something that we are still working on. That might still change, and you will be able to see that in the final.
Okay. And this, I was going to make that the last question, but there's another good question here. Upon game completion, can we still interact with the world? So basically, can you continue playing on in your current campaign after you complete the main quest?
This is something we are actually right now checking how full the world will be after we're done with implementing the main story and the side story. Hopefully, yes. And this is something that we would really like to have, especially that you could have that in Witcher 3. And, we are known from putting a lot of stuff in the world around. And we sometimes we joke about that if we would like to release the game based on our documentation, we'd have to have like 500 hours playthroughs. So you never know.
Okay, well, yeah, like you said, hopefully the answer is yes. Because especially if you have side quests that are still open, that kind of thing. There's still a lot to do in the world. I remember I used to be paranoid about finishing the main quest in a game if I had side quests unfinished, because it's like, and you'd have to look up online. Does the game continue on after you finish the main quest? Because I never want I wanted to see the ending, but I didn't want it to be the end of my playthrough, kind of a thing. You could always reload a previous save, but that was kind of didn't feel quite right. All right.
Yeah, there's some people who approach a game like they play through it, and that playthrough is their experience. Whether like they don't look up any and this is like we'll get to this about when we talk about MMOs, but it's like some people prefer to sit down, play through the game, no saves, nothing, like Iron Man or hard mode, and the ending that they get is the ending that they get. Obviously, they prefer to like actually finish the game, not just get it game over. I'm looking at you, Pathfinder. So Pathfinder has like hidden super bosses that you can accidentally run into or accidentally click onto while you're playing in an Iron Man, and they basically immediately wipe your group. And if you're playing on Iron Man mode, obviously you instantly die and your save game gets kaputted. So you have to then start over again, remembering not to click on that one little bedroll out in the middle of the field, because that's going to immediately kill you unless you're at cap level. So it's like, wow, good stuff.
Wow.
I mean, this is something that's really common these days with the games in general, that you finish the main story and you still have bits of the either side quests or just something to find that you probably skipped or missed. I think one of the most common games I played recently that had something like that was God of War. That I skipped entirely, like Valkyries, for example. And after I finished the main story, I actually came back to kill them. So I think, and again, this is something that we would for sure like to have, because obviously it's just adding you the, maybe you missed something, maybe you just want to know the main story. I'm sure we would like to have something like that you can just free roam through the city, or just see what you missed, or maybe there isn't something that you missed, or maybe there is something to find out after you're done with the game. But again, this is something that we need to make sure that it's done internally first, and then we can talk about that.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking those questions. Sorry we can't get to everybody's questions. There are just so many coming in.
We might have a bullet speed round at the very end.
Yeah, but maybe we'll take some more at the end, but we do need to get on to a couple other things here. First, I just want to say we love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S fans about all the things we love to talk about, and stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. And just another little news tidbit, has nothing to do with Cyberpunk, but there was an article, a few articles came out about the Outer Worlds. We haven't talked about that game in a while, but the co-director of the game, Leonard Boyarsky, has come out and basically said that the game is not going to be politically charged, even though it does deal with political themes, similar themes, as a matter of fact, to what a game like Cyberpunk 2077 would deal with mega corporations, that kind of a thing, in a dystopian future. But he's clearly said that they are not designing it to be a game that lectures people, so we're very happy about that here. We love hearing that. We want, we love when games deal with deep themes that make you think. I think that's fantastic. When they lecture you and don't treat you like an adult who can think for yourself, we hate that here. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there because that's going to be good news to a lot of people, and we haven't had any Outer Worlds news in a while. So wanted to throw that out there. All right, but we will get back into our conversation with Lilayah here, and we are going to talk about the importance of community in gaming. As we mentioned before, I mean, it's right in your job title, Lilayah. You're a community manager for CD Projekt, and is it CD Projekt, or do you specifically work for CD Projekt Red?
I'm pretty much working because like CD Projekt is like a company that has either like small companies, in like inside, let's say. So it's GOG, it's our sister company. We have Spoko, we have I think one of the companies that we actually merged with, that they're like CDPR Wrocław right now. But mainly I work for CD Projekt Red. So I cannot really talk about or like be included in GOG stuff, but we support each other. So whenever I have something that can benefit GOG, we communicate and we make sure that everything works together. But to answer your question, CDPR.
Okay, excellent. Oh, and that just reminded me that there was another article that came out this just yesterday, I believe, talking about how Cyberpunk 2077 was originally written in Polish. They began writing the game in the Polish language, which I found to be a really interesting tidbit. I mean, it makes perfect sense given that CD Projekt is a Polish company. But when you watch it, when you watch the trailers and things, you wouldn't know that it wasn't originally written in English. So that's really interesting. And so you've got the writers working in their native language, and then it's being
Yes.
ported over to English in a very, like, just a flawless way from everything we've seen thus far. So that's fantastic, and especially considering it's interesting. It's a game that's set in America, but it's being developed in Poland and written initially in Polish. Very fascinating. I mean, I'm sure we could talk about that for a while, but I'll just leave it there for now, because we wanted to get on to, as I said, talking about the importance of community in gaming, and I know that Subsidian has a lot of, probably has some questions and things he wants to bring up about that, and so, we'll dive into a discussion about that here. But community in gaming, it seems to be, I mean, it's a very important aspect of gaming. It's becoming more and more important. It's just exploded. I mean, the old stereotype used to be, oh, gamers are these nerdy people who keep to themselves and just sit in front of their computers in their mom's basement. But gaming has facilitated tons of communities. It's facilitated friendships. It's facilitated marriages. Like, there are people who meet their spouse in a game, and then they meet in real life and they get married, and lots of interesting things like that happen. Like, it's a real social catalyst in a lot of ways. So it's not this kind of old stereotype of we're a bunch of loners. I mean, there are, a lot of folks. I would say that there was, I was kind of like that in my younger days, that communicate better online with people, or it's more comfortable communicating online with people than necessarily face to face. And I'm not going to go into whether that's a good or bad thing, but anyway, it is what it is. So community in gaming obviously is very important to a lot of the companies as well, and that's why they have positions like community manager. So let's dive into a discussion about that and the importance of that, and what it means to gaming as a hobby and gaming as an industry. So why don't you take that away, Saib?
So first thing that I want to first thing I'm curious about is, Lilia, do you know anybody who's gotten married through meeting through the game? Like, WoW is a pretty good example of how that typically works. Have you've been playing it for years? Do you know any, like, groups or couples that have met and gotten together through it?
Yes, of course. Actually, I mean, let me just say a few words about World of Warcraft first. I'm playing World of Warcraft for like 12 years now. I've been in quite a few guilds, and one of my best friends that I actually met in not my current guild but previous guild is married to a girl that he met in a World of Warcraft. They played together. They just recently got a baby. They're like super happy. And I know a lot of couples. In fact, I also, there was a moment I had a boyfriend that I met in World of Warcraft. So, games like that, especially games like WoW, is something that helps connect people. And I think there was a meme one day, like years ago, that, we had this meme, Nokia connecting people, and then there was WoW connecting people. And it's true, actually. If not WoW, I wouldn't be here right now. Mainly because I was always someone that stands somewhere in the back. I wasn't really a person that, was standing in front saying how we should do things or how this or that should be done. I always try to keep stuff just for myself. So when my uncle showed me World of Warcraft, I was like, okay, I can try it out. And then obviously I started to talk on the forums. I joined guild that was super social. So, it helped me talk with people and, to find out that there are people that have exactly same problems like me. They have exactly same hobbies like me. And who knows, maybe they're exactly like me and understands me. So finding people like that in any kind of game, for me it was World of Warcraft, but I know there are people meeting in Battlefield or in Call of Duty and being friends for life. It's, or like, I don't know, in League of Legends. In fact, we have a team of people, even in my team, that play League together. And, it just helps bonding. So yeah, something like that is definitely possible. I've seen it happening. It happened to me, and I'm sure it's not the end of something like that, to happen.
Yeah, I met somebody through WoW as well, so it's always interesting to hear those stories, because it's a lot more common than a lot of people think it is, and it's always like really interesting to hear those types of stories. So that's cool. So another kind of key component to what we see, and often what we get when it comes to community gaming, and one of the big components of community gaming is people play different roles, and the more the deeper the amount of roles, the wider types and community you get as a whole. In League is kind of good in the sense that you have a number of different roles. You have like you have two kind of like social roles for bottom, and then you have like kind of a leader type. Then you have the stoic top, and then you have like the hunter jungle. And that's kind of how it's designed that way. There's not as much room for support or for micromanagement, which is something that is like, having played WoW for so many years and having played on some of the very top guilds in the world, especially at the peak of WoW, you always had an interesting dichotomy where the guild always had people that were not who were not in the guild for the known reason that the guild was famous for, but they were the backbone of the guild. And I believe that by removing a lot of these features, that's kind of what has given WoW kind of a disappointment in the last few years, and why it's led to a bit of a decline. Because before, and I'll give you this example, one of the top guilds I played in, it ran and functioned because one guy organized things nonstop. I don't think he would always like spend weeks just completing anything. Like he was always like very undergeared. He had basically no money in the bank. He had very little time to push these big events, but he was always organizing events for people and for the guild and for the team. And when the opening of the gates came in vanilla, the reason why we got it was because he had organized the schedule for people to work, to farm, to campaign, who to give what to, and that organization led to us being, one of the top guilds in the world. And you don't have that as much these days, but that's such a core component. Then you also have another component to community gaming, which I think is really important, and that is the social. I call it the social mother hen. That when two are scrapping, she'll come by and she'll like slap them and be like, stop fighting, you two. Either make up or separate yourselves. And it takes somebody with actual skill to understand at what time to tell people to go to their corner versus how to make up. And when I would see these people in a guild, and there was one person who was, and it was almost always a woman, and it was almost always an older woman who would like direct people to like make up or to fight it out or to to leave each other alone. And that was, again, as soon as that person left the guild would often fall apart because of the infighting or the stress or the arguments that would happen, or any number of other little minor slights that would happen. And so that kind of, and really what you have in companies like CDPR with all companies that have like a community manager, that's really what the community manager's role is. And again, it's like I've been in guilds where they're like, everybody needs to have an elo rating of a certain number, or everybody needs to have a gear score of X. Everybody needs to be attuned for this, and they need to do it by themselves by Thursday night, or else, you know. And as soon as that started to become the mandate, and you lost those people who gave the guild the flavor and the life, that's when the guild would fall apart. Like it would be usually about 3 to 6 months after they kicked out all those support people that the guild would fall apart. And each time the guys, especially the guild leader, would be like, "I don't understand. What happened? Why did this happen?" It's like, because you lost the sense of community. What are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, my last guild, this one that I'm in right now is really similar. So I would like to say hello to Andy. I don't know if he's listening. He's my current guild leader, raid leader, and to Jack, my previous raid leader and guild leader. I've been in Jack's guild for like 2 years, and when he told us that his wife is pregnant and his focus will change right now, he doesn't have time to play WoW anymore. So he would like us to continue, obviously, but without him. And we either continue as our guild, or just he's super sorry, but he just cannot do it anymore. The guild fell apart. I've been there for 2 years, and I've met so many people. But Jack and Chris were the only guys that were actually doing things for us. They were always making sure that we have feasts for the raid, or that we actually have a raid, that we have enough people. Even though everyone was a raider, at some point I even became officer to help out with like recruitment or making the website for the guild. So it still happens that there is always this one person that holds everything together. It's like a glue of the entire community, and once that person is gone, everyone is moving their own ways. And we have exactly the same situation right now in my current guild, that we obviously have like 25 raiders, or so. We have one guy who is our raid leader, our guild leader, and a glue for the entire team. Even though we have small groups, right? We have Mythic Plus group that always sticks together. I have my own group that I do like my Mythic Plus or my World Quest and whatnot together. And I know the moment someone from them is gone, it will just feel different, and maybe even feel the way that I don't want it to feel anymore. And we'll move forward. So there's always this one person that is taking care of everything, and once that person is burned out, it's gone. You will not have the same community, and everyone will be exactly like you said, like what happened, what's happening, why he or she left. And it's sad, but it's normal, and I've seen that for ages, pretty much since I play WoW. There's always this one person, there's always this glue. And it's, I can see that in in work as well, that there is always this one person that sticks everything together. But it's a bit different. Like, for example, in my team, we are all like, we are one team. And if for example, I'm gone right now, right, on holidays, I know my team will take care of everything, that I don't have to worry about messages not being answered and so on. So it's a bit different, right? But it's when someone is gone on holidays, you can see that you miss that person, because either just you have a bad day and you want to talk about something, or you just want to share your, I don't know, success or something like that. So it's a bit different, but very similar in the same way. But when it comes to like managing community, for example, let's take our Discord, like official Cyberpunk Discord. Um, everyone everyone knows I am the owner of the server, but it's not my Discord, is my team's Discord. Everyone is taking care of local communities, everyone is talking there, but we try to make sure that everything works properly in this machine, that everyone is welcomed, everyone knows what to do, where to actually step in when there is I don't know, dancing on a thin line between love and hate, let's say, between saying something not nice or something, I don't know, controversial even. And we also have our moderators that help us, because sometimes we cannot be all the time over there. Sometimes we have to take care of other mothers. Sometimes we have to go on on the holidays, or just general attend like event, for example, E3, Gamescom, Paris Games Week, and so on. That's why we make sure that we all work together, that even if I'm gone or someone else is gone, everyone knows what to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to I want to kind of like reiterate. So Coco in the chat said that the worst thing about MMOs are other players, but it's also the best thing about MMOs. It's also, and it's not just MMOs. We're not talking strictly MMOs. We're also talking like League of Legends, any game where COD or any kind of other shooter like that, where the best way and oftentimes the most enjoyable way to enjoy the game is to play it with other people. To really get down and play it with other people, to form a team. And yeah, not all the time, but most of the time. If you really want to like push a win in Fortnite, the easiest way to do it is to team up with other people who are around your same skill level, and you just keep on working together, and eventually you get a win. Like that's typically how that works, or PUBG, or anything like that. It's like if you play together, A, you have more fun, and B, you tend to get a little bit further, or at the very least, suddenly it's really, really funny when somebody does something stupid or dies in an epically funny or hilarious way. It's like those are what makes your memory. So in online gaming and in any game that's community based, the best thing about the game is that it's community based. The worst thing about the game is that it's also community based, because you'll constantly encounter those problems where you encounter a group of jackasses or an annoying thing or whatever, somebody who just doesn't care, or one of my favorites are the people who leave their mic on. They don't know that their mic is on, or they don't care, and they're like either talking with somebody else or screaming at somebody else. It's like it's very similar to when you go to the bathroom in big bathroom. You're in one stall, and the guy gets in another stall, a couple down, and he goes, "Hey, how's it going?" And you're like, "Good." It's like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Well, just trying to mind my own business in here." It's like, great. You want to get a beer after? And you're like, again, not something that I don't really know you. Hang on. This idiot in this other stall is talking to me. I'll call you back later. And you're like, "Oh, okay. I see what was going on there." I don't know if that's happened to anybody else.
I can't believe Simon's
Thankfully
telling
not.
this story again. Oh wait, sorry, was my mic on?
Yeah. So anyways, that's a bit of a joke. I stole that from somebody. But still, it's like, anything that's communal or community, it's the community that's important, right? So that kind of stuff. So out of curiosity, what is your typical play style? Because this is again something that's really interesting and notable in communities. It's like communities tend to be this way, but where you get a variety of people who play different styles or specs or whatever. Do you play? What do you typically play as?
So typically, I play as a support. In a matter of fact, I'm a Resto Shaman for like 10 years now. And whenever anyone is asking, "Hey, Lil, can you go DPS?" I'm like, "Nope. Try to find someone else that can DPS or something." But yeah, in most of the games that have any online aspect, so whether it's MMO or any MOBA, I try to play either as a support or a healer, like typical healer. But obviously I enjoy playing other roles. Sometimes I make like a tank. Or in Heroes of the Storm, that's one of my favorite MOBAs. I play DPS or assassin over there. But yeah, mainly healing, making sure that everyone stays alive, and if someone is not really nice, I can make sure he or she dies
Yeah.
on the boss, or
That's fantastic.
It's funny because I know a lot of healers who do that, and I am almost always a tank. In whatever game I play, even when I'm playing like a league game, I'm never like a glass cannon jungle, but I mostly do jungle, and it's always going to be a beefy jungle because I want to go in and I want to get into people's face and I want to drag their, I want them to try and hit me first and foremost. So it's like even in games like that, it's typically what I go for and what I enjoy the most. But yeah, no, I know a lot of healers who are like, oh, that guy's being a jerk. Well, he's gonna pull that group and he's gonna die because I'm not healing him.
It's pretty common, and one of my alts is a priest, and we have the grip, and I may or may not sometimes grip someone out of the platform, or like before I switched to shaman, I was playing a hunter. And there was one person in one of my first guilds that was super mean, but like super mean to everyone. And we had there was this fight in ICC that tanks had really problems with keeping aggro, and obviously hunters were super busted that day. Me and one more hunter, we used to misdirect that DPS aggro from the boss to that DPS, and he was always dead. Like always, beginning of the fight, what the the bloodlust is on, he was always dead.
Yeah.
And he left later, but it was funny.
All right. So how does this relate then to single player gaming? I mean, we have Cyberpunk 2077, which has, there's a huge community, actually lots of online communities that have been built up around this game. We've managed to build up some around, content that we've created as well as, communities with other YouTube channels. Like I mentioned earlier, the Cyberpunk 2077 community podcast, which it just started as a collaboration between us and the Mad Queen show, and then we got Neon Arcade and the Last Known Meal on board, and then it just grew into this thing that's bigger than all of us, to the point where we've got the attention of CD Projekt Red, and we've got the attention of Mike Pondsmith and Jay over at Artalsorian Games, and Mike Pondsmith is familiar enough with us that he refers to Cyb as a netrunner. It's been fantastic, and I just wanted to throw that little tidbit in. I meant to mention it earlier when we were talking about net running, but anyway, does CD Projekt have any kind of a stated mission or vision statement about community? Obviously, they feel it's important enough that they have people in the position of community manager. But what's the goal with creating community around this game? And like, is there anything you could talk about from as far as the company's perspective about the importance of the gaming community?
We pretty much want to because like we really don't like a word fan when it comes to players and gamers because it's just rude to call someone a fan, but we want to stay in touch with our community. And you know, we obviously work on a game, and sometimes we cannot be really objective. So that's why we need you guys to, to tell us this or this was wrong, or this and this could be done better. We obviously, like from the Witcher times, Witcher 3 perspective, because this was the time when I got hired. A lot of, well, we had like I think 13 patches for Witcher 3, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 12, something around that number. Um, Most of the fixes that were included to every single patch were based on feedback from the community. So without you guys, we wouldn't be able to make a really good game, or fix those stuff that sometimes we might simply miss during our testing, or something was working for us, but sometimes something doesn't work for someone else. And we want to make sure that what we do is right, and that you enjoy, because this is something I said 2 weeks ago during the last podcast. um, if you guys are playing the game, you spend the time by doing so, and time is, in my opinion, and in opinion of my company and my team, it's pretty much your money, right? You invest your time, your money into playing our title, and if you're not happy with what you're playing, that means that we've done something wrong, that we could do something better. And that's why we want to make sure that we gather as many people as possible, we reach out to as many of you as possible, and we hear as much from you as possible in return to make a really good game.
Well, it's always fantastic when we see you or someone on your team responding to DMs on Facebook or that kind of a thing. It really it really just it helps us feel connected with you as a company. You're not just this faceless corporation. You're a company that's made of real people, and you answer our questions, and obviously can't respond to every message you get, I'm sure, but that you'll come on a show like this and talk to our audience and take questions is absolutely fantastic, and it really puts a human face to the company. And I think that goes a long way to building a good reputation and a good rapport with your community. So I mean, kudos for all that. Now, someone, Ichisake, in the chat has an interesting question. Is it frustrating when the community reacts negatively? Like, for example, when the gameplay shown during E3 was not made public, is it is it frustrating when the community reacts negatively to something like that? Is it something you're used to? Is it something like how does that go when you're sitting in a room with your colleagues and you realize, oh, the community's not happy with something we're doing?
It's definitely a sign for us to improve. First and foremost, that we could do something better, and it's always making us really sad that we just didn't manage to deliver something to you guys. And I don't want to say we're used to it, because we're not used to it. But I don't want to say that everything that we do is always perfect and always right, because it's not. Sometimes sometimes we don't really do things well, and that's why you are here to tell us, guys, you messed up pretty much, and we need to make sure that it just simply doesn't happen again anymore in the near future, or the better at all.
Yeah. So, speaking of messing up, that was me. I was typing some responses, and I I forgot to mute my microphone. So, oops. We try not to have that happen. So my bad. But yeah, no, that's, I mean, it's also the balance that has to happen when you're trying to do public events versus like putting everything online immediately, because there is, and of course we don't, we don't like being out of the loop, but at the same time, it's like, if everything was strictly online, then nobody would have any reason to like show up at a place, right? Because if it wasn't upset about that, if you were handing out like physical goodies, then people would be upset about handing out physical goodies. So there is unfortunately always that kind of line between that. So yeah, Obsidian did an oopsie. So yeah, that is kind of, in some cases that's kind of unavoidable. You can't always make everybody happy. But yeah. So anyways, do we have more questions that we want to get to, Ash?
Well, I don't have any more that I have copied and pasted.
Okay, so what we'll do is, if you have any more quick questions for Cyberpunk, put them in now and at Asheninity, so that he can kind of compile a list, and we'll touch on one or two more topics before we go to a kind of a bullet round thing. So, so this question was in the chat before. Of course, this is a more specified question about WoW. But of course, the question is are you Alliance or Horde? I am Alliance for the most part, always have been. I have only ever leveled one character to max on the opposite faction, and that was, of course, a Blood Elf, because I'm like that was my thing in the old, like, Warcraft 1, 2. That was like what I liked the most, and then of course they ruined that, because I've never been able to play a high elf character ever. So that's been really upsetting to me over these past few years. But Lily, how about you?
Well, I'm a horde. I'm currently Zandalari troll. I've been troll before. I had minor I would say incident. I was playing Alliance for I think around a year or so, but only because I got accepted to very, very good guild. That was like, I think, top 10 worldwide. So that was my reason that I would do it, because they're worth it. But horde in my heart all the time.
Yeah. Are you now? There is, again, this is even more specified. Have you been a filthy traitor to Sylvanas, or have you been a loyalist to Sylvanas in the recent goings on within the game?
Hashtag Sylvanas is my war chief.
Okay, alrighty. Well, we definitely don't agree about that, but yeah. So, and I do like that. Like, out of all the things, again, WoW is something that I was disappointed with this year. This latest expansion was really upset. Stopped playing. But I do have to say that at least as far as like the news goes, I'm always tuning in to find out what's happening, because they have definitely stepped it up considerably within the realm of the storytelling. I think they've definitely made people care. But the danger with that is that you do run the risk of like upsetting even more people should the outcome not, if Game of Thrones was an MMO and everybody was playing it up until this last season for the final, I'm pretty sure a good like 80% of the population would have checked out. So that is a danger that you run when you do things that are risky. But props to people actually being risky and actually trying to do something that is not always easy to do. So I at least have to give them general props for that. But yeah, if they could only do that with the gameplay and with their community, that would be great. If they could just keep up that level of quality. But yeah. Anyways. All right. Do we have a list of bullet questions?
I've got 12 questions. We'll go through rapid fire.
Okay.
And so, gird your loins, Lilayah. Who was the artist that sang the old Chippin' In song, the 2018 version?
This is something I cannot say.
Okay. Do we have pets in Cyberpunk?
Nope.
All right. What's up with the right? Oh, this is kind of a different thing. What's up with the rights for future Witcher games? Do you have anything you can comment on that?
Right now, we are giving a girl a small break. And The Witcher itself, we totally are focused on Cyberpunk and Gwen.
Okay. Can we customize our vehicles in Cyberpunk?
I think I said that 2 weeks ago. It's something we're looking to do, but for me to actually say yes or no, you have to guys.
Okay. Yeah, some of these might be. I haven't vetted these, so some
But
of
it's
them
fine.
might be stuff that we have talked about before, but or things that you've said you can't comment on. Apologize in advance if there's anything like that. Okay, will Cyberpunk have more parkour elements in the game as well as the wall running?
It's under development, so we'll see how many of that will be actually in the game.
Okay, so there's some ideas, but I mean,
Yes.
it comes down to whether or not that actually gets implemented in the final version. Awesome, fair enough. Is Mike Pondsmith as humble, cool, and down to earth as Keanu Reeves?
Mike is absolute legend. I managed to get a chance to meet with him in April. We spent together 3 days with Mike and Cody, Lisa, and Jay, and they're like really adorable people, and I love them to death. And yes, he is absolute legend. I love him.
Okay, I'm going to skip this next question, unfortunately, because I don't understand quite what it's saying. How interactive will companions be? Can we give them orders? If so, what kind?
No. Your companions, so for example, Jackie, they will just help you with missions, and they'll be like your companion, but they will not take any orders from.
So they do their own thing. You can't boss them
Yes. Yes.
around. Okay. How does higher difficulty impact gameplay? Can we expect something deeper than simply raising enemy health and damage?
That's something that it's still under development and unclear at this point.
Okay. Are there animations for interacting with the world, like picking locks, putting on clothes, opening doors, sitting on chairs, that kind of a thing?
So meaningful animations that, something that's unique will get their own animations. But sometimes when you pick up exactly same object 10 times, this will not get the animation. Something that, for example, you would do for the first time, possibly yes, but not if you will do exactly same thing 10 times or more.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, kind of like in Prey when you install the thing in your eye for the first time. You get this whole animation of you stabbing this thing into your eye, but all of the subsequent times they don't make you watch that. All right, is there a hardcore mode?
It's a bit too early to say.
Okay, fair enough. And can we complete the entire story without adding body modifications to the character? And are there any consequences for doing so?
So pretty much you will have to have some of the cyberware. It will be forced upon you, for example, by quest design. Like you could see Kiroshi Optics, so the zoom that V has installed, that will be one of those cyberware. But apart from those that will be forced, quote unquote, on you, you can not, like, you might skip entirely installing cyberware, but trust me, you don't want that.
Okay. And since I skipped one of the questions, I'll take one more here. How much fashion wear, or I'm not sure if they're referring to just clothing or like fashion cyberware, but how much of just sort of fashion exclusive stuff is there in the game? Like if we look at even the characters that are in the thumbnail for the podcast today, we've got some some pretty neat fashion stuff going on, the stuff they're wearing and things like that. And I believe there's also some cyberware implants that are simply cosmetic that we see. So I guess that's
something I cannot talk about.
You cannot talk about. Okay.
All right. I'll throw this one in. Shira's asking it, and I'll always answer anything by Shira. Is how many of the people walking around in Night City are just meat bags with no augmentation, as we cyborgs like to refer to as the normies?
There will be probably like several, but because community, this is actually a fun fact. We call those all those NPCs like community assets. Those are implemented almost at the very end of the development, so it's a bit too early.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Sure, I'll do this one too. Arena or Coliseum of some kind for like getting in as V and doing some fights in an arena with an audience.
So like fist fighting, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if we have any kind of arena or coliseum. So this is something that we would have to revisit at some.
And Steak and a few of these other questions in here have been answered in the earlier section of the podcast, so you can listen back to that, because we did cover the character character creation in more detail then, and we did talk about that there. So, all right, so yeah, I think that's good. It's been a very good show.
There's one question I've seen popping up on the chat for a few times about the cosplay guides that we will be releasing. So yeah, those will be releasing really soon. Make sure to keep an eye on the website. They're coming. There will be 6 of them for 6 characters. For V, for Royce, Jackie, Placid, and Bridget. So keep your eyes open. They're coming really, really soon.
Awesome, fantastic. Where can people get a hold of you and talk to you or get involved more with the Cyberpunk community, the official Cyberpunk community?
Sorry, once again.
Yep. I actually had a friend who was asking and wanting to know if they can cosplay as some of the other characters from the trailer that we've seen, from either one of the trailers that we've seen so far. Any specifically for the contest, or is it restricted to a certain number of characters that you guys want?
No, everyone can cosplay anything they've seen, like in any asset. So in trailer, in demo, in screenshot, in
awesome.
Like concept art, anything.
Because there's specifically they were like, "Oh, I want to do Lizzie Wizzy." I'm like, "Ooh, that would be fun and probably quite messy, but sure, yeah."
Yeah, unless you're planning to use actual Chrome, which we don't recommend. So Lilayah, so where can people talk to you and get more involved in the Cyberpunk community? We have the
yeah, so pretty much the first and I think the most common and the fastest way to talk to me is on our Discord server. I'm always there, so you can just ping me or DM me, or even on my Twitter. That's also one of the places that I'm always active and always check DMs, tweets, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I posted the link to the server earlier in the chat, but if you go to cyberpunk.net, there's a link in the top right corner that'll take you right to the Discord server. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for supporting this show, for the great conversation in the chat. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Shannon Vega, Old Man Manson, Evolution, and our 2 anonymous supporters, as well all of our channel members. And thank you so much, Lilayah, for joining us today. Really appreciate having you on the show. And I hope
pleasure.
I hope we can talk to you again in the near future. Don't forget to like and sub, everybody, if you appreciate this weekly content. If you haven't slammed that like button yet.
Oh, tomorrow we have Paris on the community podcast, so please tune in to see Paris and talk to him. We're gonna be talking about the gameplay directly with him as well. So
all right, and that's on our channel this week, is it not?
that is on our channel tomorrow, same place. Tomorrow time is gonna be 11 o'clock PT Pacific Standard Time and 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Right on. All right. If you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Podcast, or Podbean, or Spotify, any of those podcast platforms, we thank you for subscribing and reviewing the show. Feel free to join us on YouTube Wednesday nights and Saturday mornings for the live show, where you can interact with us and other listeners, be a part of the discussion. My name is Asheninity. On behalf of Subsidian and Lilayah, thank you so much for listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast, and we will talk to you very soon.